Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I am here with my colleague and my very dear friend, Rabbi Shlomo Gemara. How are you, Rabbi?
Very good. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you so much. How is your winter semester going at school?
You know what? This winter, I think I could put an end to it mid-January, and from mid-January, like summer, this would be so good.
So listen, on a more positive note, I know how hard you're working, and kol hakavod to you for saving our Jewish children. But I also know that you went to another shabaton this past Shabbat. How was it?
Yes, absolutely. It was a beautiful shabaton. Actually, every shabaton has a certain
Flavor.
taste to it and flavor. So this Shabbaton, actually, we went with students who belongs to the new stream of Chat. The new stream is a wonderful program in Chat, taking students who did not go to a Jewish elementary school. And they decided for all kinds of reasons to come to Chat for the high school years. You have students who never experienced Shabbat. And the Shabbaton, being together and hearing the Kiddush and going to Shul for a while, talking about Parashat Shavua, seeing Sudat Shabbat with many people, singing a little bit, is the first time.
Yes.
And many students came to me at the end of the Shabbat and said, first of all, it was much better than I thought it will be because it's a mandatory program. We want every student to experience Shabbaton. And few of them said it was a very meaningful program for us. And this is exactly what you want to hear. So, that's the little reward we have for not being with the family and going to the north. And you know what, like you have snow more than meter high and cold. Last Shabbat was just terribly cold.
I know, I almost drowned in the snow. Rabbi, I'm curious, as an educator of which you've been for many years, who are the children who actually go to a Shabbaton? And
we take every student in grade 9 to Shabbaton.
Yes.
According to the classes that they learn certain Limudei Kodesh, the Jewish studies. But we have also a wonderful group of madrichim that apply to the job. It's a leadership job, and Chat give many, many opportunities for Jewish leadership. And we have wonderful, wonderful group of students who are the madrichim. They are only 2 years or maximum 3 years older than the students, but they are doing amazing job, and they have to be accommodating them socially. They have to give them content to raise their spirit, and they do an amazing job.
So what I wanted to ask you was, there are young people, students, who go to a Shabbaton and they come away from it saying, this is so meaningful, this is so powerful, this is something that I want to incorporate in my life at home. Then there are other students who go, incredible waste of time. What's the distinction between those two students?
Listen, a Shabbaton has many opportunities for many different venues. Students in grade 9, they like to be with each other, friends and the social setting and being together away from the parents. So even for the students that Shabbat does not mean much, and they are not so interested in the Jewish side of it, they still have what I call the peoplehood, they like being together. Eventually, when you go to shul, there are the serious daveners who come to daven, but you have also the people who come for the Kiddush Club. And we want everyone to enjoy Shabbat in her or his way. So the people who are not coming for the Kriyat Torah or to the davening, they come for the meal and to be together and for the programs which are around Israel and Jewish life and Jewish future. Okay, listen, that's fine. The interesting thing is that we do every year exit interviews with students who graduating grade 12.
Mhm.
And you know what? Many of them, I think last year it was something around 70%, say that the most important experience, Jewish experience they had in school was the shabaton. So think about students who are 4 years after the event or 3.5 years after the event and still remember it as a meaningful experience.
Rabbi, I'm very curious as to where you are at spiritually and as an educator mentally when you are at the Shabbaton. My guess is, and tell me if I'm correct, my guess is that you are always on, that you're knowing you, that you're probably always thinking is, what can I add to this discussion? What can I add to this song that will really, really envelop the student, where the student will feel
Absolutely.
as though this is a powerful spiritual piece. Are you always on at the Shabbaton?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So indeed, every activity, the Shabbat, the Zmirot Shabbat, introduction to Netilat Yadayim or Lechem Mishneh, everything needs some introduction, some explanation. I love to tell Jewish stories in the Shabbaton, which are always inspiring for every age. You know, teachers find it inspiring, students find it inspiring. We have a beautiful minhag that I introduced a few years ago, which is giving birkat abanim to each other. You know, everyone put his right hand on the head of the one next to him, and telling stories about it. And because the truth is, it's a self-sell event. Namely, Shabbat has so much to offer on so many levels. So I don't have to sell Shabbat. I have just to show why Shabbat is so important for every single person, for every single student. So I just have to expose something which is already meaningful.
Yes.
It's the same thing that I say about teaching Torah. I said the Torah itself is so powerful. You don't need much to teach Torah and people to enjoy learning Torah. You just have to show them, you know, to open the window to show them the light will come by itself. And Shabbat is very much the same.
Yeah. It's
Once
like,
you open the window, when you open the heart, the light of Shabbat just shine for everyone.
it's like when you bought your wife a diamond ring. It was VVS, H color. All she had to do was look very, very closely at it, right?
Very good example.
Rabbi, nowadays, do students like the teachers? Do they like you?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I think that one of the great achievement of Chad is a very good relationship, structure and good relationship with the teacher. The teachers are demanding. Mostly they demand hard work, but at the same time there is a very special atmosphere. And remember, the teachers who are coming to the Shabbaton, and we have quite a few, they don't get paid. They come voluntarily. The conditions are far from home. It's not a hotel or even motel. It's a campsite. So you can assume how is it like, you know, to be in a camp bed with your children, with your wife. It's not easy. But they come because they care. They care about the student. They feel that they have a role to fulfill, and they do it. They are very meaningful to the success of the Shabbaton.
Is there a conscious effort nowadays to create that relationship with the student, between the student and the teacher, that has evolved over the years? And I ask you this because of my own personal experience. When I was in yeshiva 5 years, you know, it was in vogue to kind of poke fun at the teachers, not to like them, you know, that you were kind of cool if you kept your distance from them. Has that changed over the years?
That's a very important question because a teacher has a very complicated job. On one hand, he has to be strict. He has to set deadlines, and he has to show students that there is something that is called border, something that these days many students don't understand the concept. They never heard the word no, especially not no. Everyone deserves a trophy for everything she or he does. And you need teachers to model also deadlines, borders, restrictions, conditions. At the same time, you can get today many friends online, but you need real relationship, someone that really cares about you. And the teachers have to do this too. So it's in a way, it's a little bit contradiction because how can you be tough or not tough, but I would say firm
Strict.
and stand for your principle and at the same time to be loving and caring and nourishing. It's not easy, especially for rookie teachers. You know, I always say be very, very careful about it. Be friendly, but don't be your student's friend because they will lose any respect to you. So this is a very fine line between being friendly but still not being a friend, that blur uh, the border between yes and no, black and white, mutar asur. It's very, very important.
And from the teacher's side, where you're speaking more about the students, um, is it correct to say that teachers, not all of them, but many of them, let's say, actually love their students?
Absolutely, yes. I see it in every teacher meeting. I see the amount of investment, emotional investment the teachers had in their students. I do believe that most of our teachers, if not all of them, they really care. Love is a big word, but I would say really like deeply care about the success and the growth of their students.
Rabbi, we're doing a series which is called Torah in Real Time, and we've been doing it for a number of weeks, and so far so good. We're showing a lot of success, and the idea behind it is to talk about the Parsha HaShavua, which is the portion of the week, and to reflect it through the guise or the filter of some current events. This week we're doing Parashat Beshalach, and within Parashat Beshalach, Moshe Rabbeinu and the Bnei Yisrael, they leave Egypt, and with them they take the bones of Joseph. The current events that we are going to be comparing that to or likening it to is the release, if you will, or the rescue of Major Sergeant Ron Gvili in Israel, which we alluded to last week as well. But as you always say, that it's not by happenstance that the portion of the Torah is when it is. It's actually quite fascinating that the idea that Moshe Rabbeinu took Joseph's bones in this parsha comes out this week, when in fact Ron Gvili was the very last hostage, which was held in Israel. And by the way, it's the last Israeli hostage that's been in Gaza over the last decade. Did you know that?
No.
The last 10 years. Yes. Gaza
Wow.
is Israeli free, if you will. But
Wow.
within that, before I give a formal introduction to the Parsha, I'd like to touch on another issue. And I really respect your experience in life, of which you've had a lot, both in Israel and the IDF, having a family, Baruch Hashem, many children, and then coming to Canada and becoming an educator here in Canada as a Rosh Yeshiva, as a vice principal. You know a lot. And within that, what I want to ask you is about Nachshon ben Aminadav. Now, Nachshon ben Aminadav, as the Midrashim tell us, was the first person to step into the sea before it split. And the major things about him was that he acted without hesitation, and he risked his life for God. I think sometimes we tell the story of Nachshon ben Aminadav in a very sort of fluffy way, and he stepped into the sea, and he came up to his ankles, and he came up to his knees. But for anybody who has ever almost drowned, of which I did as a child, almost, it's a really perilous thing to go into the water and not know what the outcome would be. As someone who is known for his just dive in spirit, I'm curious what your views are of Nachshon, and perhaps how it is applied to your life. The idea perhaps of coming here to Toronto and diving right into this brand new culture, which must have been very, very scary.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought about it like our moving to Canada, like in terms of Nachshon, but I would say the following. It's very interesting that you make this connection. We have to remember Nachshon ben Aminadav was a the president, the chief of the tribe of Judah. Now, in this particular tribe, there was already tradition of leadership from Judah, the one who established this tribe. And it was apparently like going through the DNA of the people of this family to lead. And the story about Nachshon ben Aminadab is a story of leadership. Because a leader sometimes must do something that most people will not do. That's what makes him a leader. So this story is telling us about the fears of everyone before like a huge mission or a huge task. The fact that sometimes you need this person who is willing to risk everything in order to make a difference. So I guess that every leader in whatever position come to a point that he has to cross his Yam Suf. He has to take a move that he doesn't know how it's going to end. Going to Canada maybe was kind of something like this. I think that leaders, it's not easy to make these decisions, but I think that leaders have the capacity of knowing I can take the risk, I will take it, and whatever will happen, but I must do the first move. And indeed, I have to tell you, the worst day in Canada was the day when we arrived. I'm not talking about like the packages in Pearson. I don't know. They thought that we came maybe like, to caught whales or something. We had so many like bags and boxes. And we just went out of the bus and everything looked so different, and we couldn't speak the language with the people. It was frightening to the point that we thought like, okay, when is the next flight back to Israel? We are not doing it. And it was not easy. The first few days, like new experience, a major experience, is not easy. But Baruch Hashem, we made it, and we learned a lot from this experience.
You know, the interesting thing about Nachshon as well is that, as I said before, they say that he embodies the leap before you see faith, and I found that a very compelling piece. Rabbi, we're talking about the energy of Nachshon ben Aminadav, and there be a number of people throughout history who have reflected such energy. Avrum Avinu in the Torah, who left Ur of Chaldees; Esther, who went into King Achashverosh's chambers without being invited; and Harriet Tubman, who was very well known for her activism during the slave years in America, who would go back into slave environments and rescue people from them, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I thought to myself, how much courage and bravery that must take in order to be able to go into an environment which is so dark, which is so scary, and knowing that if you are caught, that terrible things can be done to you. You know, and I thought about the IDF soldiers, Rabbi, who would do their shmirah, they would do their guard duty at night in Gaza or in Hebron or down these alleyways in Arab villages, and how scary that must be for them.
It is. It's very scary. I think it's one of the scariest thing is the unpredicted outcome, what will happen. I'm going to leave my comfort zone. And therefore you have leaders and followers. The leaders take this risk. And the followers need leaders that take this risk to show them that they can do it too. The IDF soldiers, absolutely. That's such a great idea, because each one of them is Nachshon. And
Yes.
He jumped into the water. You know, you go to the army, you go to the Bakum, to the admission base where you become a Chayal, and you don't know what is going to happen. And we see so many Chayalim, 951 did not come back from the operations in Gaza. Aren't they Nachshon? But Nachshon, the water became to his nostrils and he was alive. These soldiers jumped into the water and never came back alive.
Rabbi, I want to introduce Torah in Real Time this week about Parashat Beshalach formally. So welcome to Torah in Real Time. Parashat Beshalach is remembered for thunder and miracles, for the sea splitting, for walls of water, for people finally breaking free from centuries of slavery. It is remembered for the song of sea, for faith erupting into poetry, for a nation finding its voice. But before any of that, before the water parts, before the singing begins, the Torah tells us something quieter, heavier, and much more demanding. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. The people do not leave Egypt empty-handed. They do not rush forward in triumph alone. They carry their dead. They carry a promise made generations earlier. They carry the weight of unfinished redemption. Beshalach teaches us that freedom is not only about escape, it is about responsibility. It is about refusing to build a future that forgets those who were lost along the way. The Exodus is not just a story of running, it is a story of carrying. Only then do they reach the sea. Only then does Pharaoh chase. Only then does terror rise and faith is tested. The people cry out, they feel trapped, with water in front of them and an army behind them. This is not yet the song. This is the moment before the miracle, when courage is demanded without guarantees. And it is precisely there, at the edge of fear, that redemption takes its most honest shape. This week, as Israel receives the final hostage, Major Sergeant Ron Givili, Zachreni Livracha, Beshalach is no longer only a Torah portion. It is a living reality. Ron Givili was a police special forces officer who ran toward danger on October 7th to defend Israeli citizens. He was killed in battle and taken into Gaza. After 840 days, his remains were finally brought home for burial, closing a chapter of captivity for the Jewish people. Did you know that he was in the hospital, Ron Givili was, having surgery on a shoulder that had been broken? And he left the hospital and he went south to rescue many, many people from the October 7th terrorist attack. Unbelievable courage.
That's indeed unbelievable.
A very special man. Rabbi, when we
like
talk...
many others, so many people just left everything. They did not know what they are going into. They took sometimes like a small pistol or something like this, not really even a gun or a machine gun. Sorry. And just jumped in, and many of them paid with their life because they could not imagine how well equipped the Nukhbas and the Hamas terrorists were. But they were willing not, to wait for instructions or commands or anything. There was a problem, they ran into the fire.
Yes. Rabbi, the whole issue, or the whole narrative about Moshe Rabbeinu taking Joseph's bones, it's a very curious thing. What is the essence of what the Torah, what God is trying to tell us by this delivery that Moshe Rabbeinu and the Jewish people were making, which had been promised many years before?
I think the message is so striking. Moshe was the most successful Jew of his generation. His fame came from Egypt. I'm sure that he had many connections and networks in Egypt itself. And you might think that a person like this would want to get the last honor in a place where he made a difference. And he would like to be buried in Egypt. And generations will come to his grave and teach about the person who saved Egypt. And he was so great and he was so unique. He was the only one who could predict what will happen to Egypt. And not only that, he actually saved with the whole system. He saved Egypt. And nevertheless, you see that his heart was elsewhere. As Yehuda Levi said, Anochi be'ma'arav ve'libi be'mizrach, like I'm sitting in the Ma'arav in Spain, but my heart is really in the Mizrach, in Eretz Israel, I think this is what many Jews felt in the Galut. I'm here, I was successful here, my community is here, my family was here, my parents were here, but my heart is elsewhere, is actually in the East, is in Eretz Israel. And that's what Yosef wanted to show. Despite the fact that he was so admired in Egypt, he would not belong there. And it's maybe something to tell us about how much we belong to the place where we live and grow up and grow our children. Our heart is elsewhere. Our heart is in Eretz Israel.
It's an interesting point that you're making. You know, my father was the rabbi in Kitchener for 36 years. Zachareni Livracha. And I so often as a younger person felt that that's not where he should be. But yet he served his whole rabbinical career there and he passed away there. Would one say then that was God's plan for my father? You know, was it the plan for Joseph to be in Egypt and not to be in Israel?
It's very hard to answer, but God promised Abraham that his generation must go through the torture of Egypt, of a nation. They will come out. There are many explanations to why it had to happen this way. But it doesn't mean that you belong to the place where you live your life. We live our life physically, our legs and hands and eyes are in one place, but we live our life really where our heart is. And I see many times, it's one of the things that really impressed me when people talk about Eretz Israel and the moment they will be able to leave, they will go to Israel. I see that, they are here in Canada, they are in the United States, but really, they live in Israel.
Rabbi, the Parsha begins very, very beautifully. The first couple of psukim says, it happened when Pharaoh sent out the people that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines because it was near. And for God said, perhaps the people will reconsider when they see a war and they will return to Egypt. I thought about these psukim and I thought God was acting as the caregiver of the Jewish people. And God is conscious of the behavior of humankind, so much so that when you leave Egypt after 100, 200 years or 400 years of slavery, you have a slave mentality. Therefore, if I were to take you the shortest route by the Philistines who would start a war with you, your response would be, take me back to Egypt. I'm comfortable as a slave. And I thought to myself
that they indeed, throughout the journey, even after they had to be in the desert 40 years, from time to time, they rebelled, they wanted back to Egypt.
So Rabbi, when we read these psukim and we see maybe one of the most important explanations of God's caregiving over the Jewish people, you always say that the Torah is applicable today. We mentioned that before.
Yes.
When does God take us on the longest route today, as opposed to going the short route, which might be a lot more comfortable?
Well, my take is that apparently the longer route is necessary. Sometimes we have to be ready, mentally ready for things that are happening. And it might well be that we are not ready for the final redemption. We still have to go through journeys and through stations in our life, and I'm talking about the nation life, until we are going to be ready for this moment. And it's an important lesson to the Jewish people. Sometimes, we are not ready even for great things to happen. And our mind is still bound by our past experience. And to break the shackles, to break the chains of Galut is not a simple thing at all.
Yeah, so when we think about the short route, well, again, what comes to mind is the 1967 war, which was 6 days. and we started to rely on the quickness of Israel's military ability. But then we come to, after October 7th, a war which lasted well over 2 years, right?
Yeah. And the prime minister then said, this is going to be years. And everyone looked, no, that's impossible. We never fought like for years. But he was right. We are not at the end of it. Unfortunately, we have to admit it. And we are very spoiled. Until now, more or less, wars were something quite short. Even Milchemet Yom Kippur, the Yom Kippur War was not more than a few weeks, and it's over. But this is attrition. This is like taking time. It's to be strong here is not only on the military level, but really mentally to be
Yes.
strong and to endure a long time of challenges and difficulties. And
Rabbi,
so good at it apparently yet.
a strange thing happened when the Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim. Pharaoh reneged. He changed his mind. The Torah says that God strengthened his will, right?
Yeah.
And that was contrary to what had happened in previous Parshiot, where God, that made his heart very hard. But what's really compelling about this is that you see in Iran today, as an example, that when things start to become Exodus-like in nature, that the regime there, they really bear down and they do terrible things.
Yeah.
They kill thousands and thousands of people. It's tyranny at its worst.
It's a fight for holding the power. That's what it is. That's what happened in Egypt, although they saw that everything collapsed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened through history. Rulers become intoxicated with their own power, and they don't give it even when they see that they cause the demise and the collapse of themselves and their country.
There's a very interesting piece in this Parsha. You and I have had this discussion before about the songs in the Torah. And what's very beautiful to read. And if you please when you take a moment to study this Parsha, because in it, once the Jewish people had successfully crossed the sea, and then the Egyptians were drowned, they sang a song to God. And it's a very, very beautiful song. And the Midrashim say this is really the first time that song went from the individual to the collective. The Bnei Yisrael were coming together, singing as one. And when I read that Midrash, I thought, you know what I thought about, Rabbi? I thought about your shabaton. You tell me your favorite part of the shabaton is singing, right? What is it about song? What is it about the notes, your voice, collectively, that is such a spiritual thing?
Number one, there is something very beautiful when it's Azi Ashir Moshe Uvnei Yisrael. When many people sing together, it gives such a good feeling of unity, of belonging, of one message that everyone focus on. Think about what is a song. It's actually an idea wrapped with beautiful music, captivating music. And sometimes you can dive into a very profound idea with a song. And therefore, it's very important for me to explain the songs, because really short line, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar meod.
Yes.
The entire whole world is a very narrow bridge. And the main thing is to recall, have no fear at all. It's such a profound concept, and everyone sing it and enjoy just the music. But if you pay attention to the words, to the idea here, it's a life-changing idea. And almost all Jewish songs are life-changing ideas. If I'll take every single song, there is something very powerful in it. And when many people sing it together, it creates a very, very special atmosphere.
So tell me something. I've always wondered about that song. What do you read into those words?
You know what? I always tell a story, a true story that never happened. that Rabbi Nachman Mibreslav, that's what I tell the students. I hope they don't listen to this one. They will be very disappointed. Once went from one village to another, and he came to a gushing, violent river, and he didn't know how to cross to the other side. And like down the stream, he sees like a beam over the river, and people are actually cross over the beam to the other side, like it's like few meters above the water. And he asked one of the guys, like, tell me, my friend, I have to go to the other side. How am I doing it? So he says to him, you have to do it like, step by step, very, very careful. Don't take like wide steps. And he said, and this way I will get to the other side. He said, yes. He said, it doesn't sound so hard. He said, I'll tell you what the problem is. The moment you are going to entertain fear into your heart, you are in the water. You are going to gun. You will be gone. So I tell the story, as I told you, never happened. He went to his student and he said, I learned today the most important lesson in life. The world is actually a very narrow bridge. And you think that the problem is the water or the difficulties of life, the challenges of life. You think, oh, I don't have the means to cross to the other side. I just have this beam and I cannot like walk over it. But the real problem is the fears in your heart. Yeah. You just afraid of falling. The world will not fail you. Your heart will fail you. And therefore, you always have to remember, you have aspiration, you have dreams, but you are afraid what your parents will say, what your friends will say. Maybe I will fall. The moment you have all these fears, you will not achieve any of your dreams. העיקר לא לפחד כלל. Don't be afraid. Do what is right, do it carefully, and you will get to the other side. That's a story I tell, and I think it's a very important message, especially for teenagers, to know that they can achieve, they just remove somehow the fear from their heart, not to be afraid of the world and what people will say, and how am I going to achieve it? I don't have the means, I don't have the powers. No, take these fears, you will cross to the other side. And this is really the struggle of the world. But the truth is, every Jewish song has this message, this or another message that is crucial, is essential to live good life. And that's the beauty of singing together.
Modern psychology says that despite your fears, dive in anyway. I had a girlfriend once who called me a pachtan, that I'm a frightened person, and I think I am. But despite that, I've managed to dive into certain areas of life and to achieve some very goals, which are goals I was very happy with.
You are Nachshon. You are.
I'm Nachshon, who was a pachtan. Rabbi, I want to ask you sort of a unique question here. I don't think we've dealt with this before, but it's about the Torah and body parts. In Shirat HaYam, in the song of which we speak of, there's a line. It's in 15:8. At a blast from the nostrils, the waters were heaped up. Straight as a wall stood the running waters. The deep waters congealed in the heart of the sea. Rabbi, when I read this pasuk, and the word nostrils jumped out at me, and I thought to myself, nostrils can be found in other parts of the Torah, right? In Bereshit, when God creates man.
When God created the human being, he, through the nostril, infused the divine spirit into the human being.
Yeah. Right. He blew into his nostrils the breath of life. This is the most famous reference. Life enters humanity through the nostrils. When I throw this your way, what comes to mind about the nostrils or about body parts in general and how we sort of reflect upon them in terms of messages from the Torah?
Well, the nostrils are the gate for the air, which is essential to our life, enter our body and taking it out. So our real interaction with the world around us, the interaction which is essential, vital, really vital to our life, is through the nostrils. And We look at it and we don't see it because it's right, the air, you don't see the air that comes in and you inhale it out and exhale and inhale it. But really the nostrils are the point of connection. And it's also the point of connection with the divine power that we got, which is interesting thought.
You know, there is a saying that God is the breath within every breath.
Beautiful.
It might be a Buddhist saying, but I found that indeed to be very beautiful. And when you learn about meditation and when you learn about mindfulness and yoga, breath work is extraordinarily important and inherent
Mhm.
to that. Have you ever done any of those, meditation, mindfulness?
No, not really. Not really. But you see, you don't have to go to Buddhism. It's like stated in the Torah that when Hashem gave the human power, the human uniqueness, he infused kind of spirit into him. And the first apparently body action was breathing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm surprised. Does chat not have something having to do with mindfulness or with yoga? Nothing?
There are some teachers who use here and there. Sometimes
Yeah.
I observe classes where teachers encourage students to do some, I wouldn't say yoga, but mindfulness. Yes, absolutely. Today it's a big issue.
Yeah, it's
I'm too old for this, but
You're not too old. Rabbi, you know, there are a few classic movies that deal with the splitting of the sea. And the most classic is The Ten Commandments in 1956 by Cecil B. DeMille. And what I find very interesting is that when I do my shir on Thursday nights, very often people won't quote Shemot. They'll quote the movie.
you have no idea what a terrible thing it is. You know, many of our
Is it terrible? Yeah.
yeah, it is terrible. I'll tell you why. It's killing of the imagination. And once you see a powerful movie, that's the way you perceive things. For many of our students, what happened in Egypt, what they know is exactly as you say. They don't read the verses anymore. They don't read the commentaries anymore. They saw the Prince of Egypt.
Yes.
So the Prince of Egypt became like the commentator of Sefer Shmot. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that many of it is just like, you know, Bobby Mises, and it never happened. Okay, but even the thing that happened, you could see them in so many ways. And, you know, there is one way to read the psukim when you are 20 years old and you really want to rebel against your oppressor, or 80 years old when you are exhausted from everything that you went through life. You want really to read the story from different point of views, different point of experiences. And once you see the movie, when you think about Moses, you think about Moses of the movie. When you think about this story, you think about what Walt Disney described the story. So it's killing the imagination.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And therefore, you know, think about the fact that the Torah say don't take a picture, or don't pesel tmunat kol. We want to leave things to the imagination. Once you have like the picture, you have the image, you have the statue, your mind cannot think anymore, and to be creative.
You know, it's very interesting what you're saying, because the Gemara that I used in yeshiva was the Vilna edition, which most yeshivot or every yeshiva uses,
Yeah.
but it was the pure Gemara. In later years, Steinsaltz, God bless his soul, came out with translations, and many yeshivot were critical of it because it detracted from a person thinking more so and really compelled in terms of their own curiosity.
I fully understand it. The Steinsaltz himself would admit that he came, you know, to give you access to the Talmud. But don't think for a second after you learn Steinsaltz or our scroll that you really know to learn Talmud, because the beauty of any text, And that's what the Gemaras do all the time. Two Tanaim, two scholars of Torah, huge scholars of Torah, read the same verse in the Torah and come to completely different conclusion. How is that possible? The answer is that the text must be left for the creativity of the mind, the imagination of the mind. And therefore, from the same exact words, you can draw two different conclusions.
A Beis Hillel and a Beis Shammai.
And the picture, unfortunately, don't let you more than one way to see the reality.
Yeah, there's no Rashi and Tosfos in the movie, right?
Exactly.
Rabbi, we have a few more minutes, but I think it's really important that we cover the whole issue around God feeding the Jewish people. We talked about God as being a caregiver. Well, they had to eat and they had to drink. And this Torah, Parshas Beshalach, speaks extensively about that. About the food itself, there is a discussion around what we call manna. And there are very different approaches to what manna was, different ideas. It says that whatever a person wanted it to taste like, that's what it tasted like. It was personal. But one of the things that really touched me was an interpretation that said manna taught daily trust, not long-term control. I like that very much. Do you want to comment on that?
I think it's a very profound idea because the Torah itself says that the manna was a test. It's very, very hard not to know if you have bread at home for tomorrow. When I hear about a person who lost his job, I feel, wow, this person not only lost his job, I'm sure he cannot sleep at night. How is he going to manage tomorrow? How is he going to feed his kids? How is he going to send them to school? This fear of what we spoke before, the unpredictable future, that's a terrible thing. And it was like a daily exercise in believing in God, that somehow tomorrow you will have the means to feed your family. And obviously for a nation, that their existence in the world requires a very strong believing in God, they had to go through it. But I don't want to think about myself like living life that I don't know what will happen tomorrow. So in this regard, the man was a very powerful, frightening experience for the Jewish people. And you see that they were so afraid. They prefer not to get this divine food. And many, many times they just wanted like what they knew in Egypt. In Egypt, they knew tomorrow there will be the onion, the potato, the food that they need for tomorrow. And sometimes it's easier to be a slave, but to know that tomorrow you are going to survive rather than to be a free person, but you don't know what tomorrow holds.
Right. And just to add to your point about how the manna itself infused certain feelings and thoughts and spirituality within the Jewish people, what's fascinating too, the Torah tells us, is that on Friday, 2 portions fell.
Yeah.
Why was that? Why was that?
Because there was no manna on Shabbat and people had to eat. So God gave them on Friday twice. And that's why we have 2 chalot on the table to remind this miracle, and we cover them to remind the miracle of the manna that was covered up, like a cover over it. So people could see the hashgacha, the special divine providence that thinking about tomorrow, when you are not going to have manna, this is the only day that you get 2 portions, and you will be able to eat tomorrow.
Yes. Rabbi, I want to conclude with an AI poem about Beshalach. What else is new? And it goes as follows. Beshalach is remembered for thunder, for water standing like wall, for a sea that forgets is a sea, for chains falling into salt and foam, for a people tasting freedom for the first time in centuries. It is remembered for song, for faith breaking into poetry, for a nation discovering its voice in the echo of a miracle. But before the sea, before the drums, before the first note is sung, The Torah whispers something even heavier, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. Freedom does not travel lightly. Redemption is not a sprint. They do not leave empty handed from Egypt. They leave carrying memories. They leave carrying the dead. They leave carrying a promise made to someone who never lived to see the water split. The Exodus is not only a story of running, it is a story of carrying. Only then do they reach the sea. Only then does Pharaoh chase. Only then does fear rise like a second wall, water in front, armies behind, breath caught between past and future. But this is not yet the song. This is the moment before the miracle, when courage is demanded without guarantees, when faith has no proof, when the sea is still closed. And it is precisely there, at the edge of terror, that redemption takes its most honest shape. This past week, Beshalach is not only Torah, it is time. It is history breathing in our ears. As Israel receives Master Sergeant Ron Gvili, who ran toward danger to defend civilians, who fell in battle, who was taken, who was waited for, who was finally brought home. Beshalach becomes flesh. Beshalach becomes tears. Beshalach becomes a coffin carried with honor. Like Joseph's bones, his return teaches us. A people cannot cross forward while someone is still missing. A nation cannot fully sing while one soul is still left behind. It's a very powerful thought, isn't it, Rabbi? Very powerful. Nobody left behind.
I myself so surprised that the parsha and our daily life are so synced together this week.
Yes, I know you are, and it is quite mystical, at least in nature, to see it that way.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for watching and for listening. We enjoyed this very much. It's a wonderful parsha, as all of these parshiot are. Please take a moment, if you can, during the week, find some time to study the parsha and go in depth. Find your favorite meforshim, as we call them, interpreters, because there is an awful lot to learn. Rabbi, any concluding words?
I'm waiting for next week's parsha. I still have a feeling that the next few days, are going to bring fear and salvation in Iran, in other, I don't know, but I follow the news very carefully. I think that something is brewing. Hopefully it will be, again, miracles and salvation.
Amen. And I remind everybody that in Iran, there are 9,000 Jews within the community there. Some say less, some say more. Pray for them, learn for them, think about them, along with their fellow citizens who are fighting for freedom. Until we meet again, thank you so much for joining us. Sei gesinnt, as my mom used to say, and have a wonderful Shabbat and a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.